This is a lesson to look at Bowlby's Evolutionary Theory of Attachment for Paper 1. In the specification, this is under Explanations of Attachment. You are required to know two explanations of attachment, the learning theory on a previous video and Bowlby's monotropic theory or evolutionary theory. Within this theory, you need to be aware of the concepts of a critical period and the internal working model. So, you need to understand how an attachment forms and why. The first theory is the learning theory by Dollard and Miller, and the second is the evolutionary theory. So, the evolutionary theory works on the idea that children are born with a drive to become attached. So, this is to all intent and purpose a biological theory. It has roots in biology. The idea that an attachment is innate, so it is something that we are born with, it is something that we need. Bowlby was influenced by the research of Lorenz looking at the goslings. This is called imprinting. So, these are the key characteristics of evolutionary theory. First of all, evolution is the process whereby useful characteristics are introduced into a species. Characteristics are useful if they help the animal to survive long enough to successfully reproduce. To survive and reproduce, animals will be well adapted to their environment. So adaptive means useful. So, useful features are seen to be adaptive. Can I apologise for the noise next door? Caregiving is also an evolutionary behaviour, and this is because infants are born with certain characteristics which elicit caregiving or lead to caregiving, and these are called social releases. Social releases such as smiling, laughing, having large eyes, so they could be physical or behavioural. If we have a look at these babies, some of them have more caregiving features than others. For example, the baby in the top middle has large eyes. This one has cute large eyes. This one cute because it has large eyes, and some of the others like this one are smiling, again emitting social releases. This is an important quote from Bowlby, who suggests that mother love in infancy is as important to mental health as vitamins and proteins are for physical health. We're going to come back to this quote when we look at the maternal deprivation hypothesis, because this is going to underpin the idea that a mother or one caregiver is absolutely essential for development. There are now 5 characteristics that you need to be aware of. The first is adaptive. An attachment is adaptive, it's useful. Social releases. Children emit social releases. There is a critical period. We're going to learn on one of the next slides what the critical period is in which a child should attach. Monotropy. And finally, the internal working model. These are all vital features. So, Bowlby, 1958. His theory was basically created as an evolutionary theory, but does also have parts of developmental psychology. It isn't just evolutionary in nature. The first part is definitely evolutionary in nature, which is the adaptive idea. The idea that if we have an attachment, it helps us to survive and therefore it is useful. The next feature is social releases. We've just discussed these. These are the features which unlock the innate tendency of adults to care for them. So things that make an adult want to care for a child, such as being cute. These could be physical or they could be behavioural. critical period. It's vital that you remember the critical period for Bowlby's theory, and this is birth to 2.5 years. Remember that Bowlby says quite clearly that if a child does not attach to one individual during the first 2.5 years, there will be a significant impact socially, emotionally, intellectually, and physically. And finally, the internal working model. Monotropy. Monotropy is mono. This is one special intense attachment. At first, Bowlby said this was with the mother, but then he modified this and said it could be with a mother substitute. And finally, as I said earlier, the internal working model. This is an internal template on which all future relationships are based. And it's usually based on the first relationship with the mother. And therefore, this tells us that the relationship with the mother is absolutely vital for normal development. So, this is a summary of what you need to know for this area of the specification. Attachment forms with those who respond to the child's signals, social releases. Attachment will correlate with other aspects of biological development. There is a monotropous attachment figure, and any disruption of attachments will have developmental consequences. We will revisit this with the maternal deprivation hypothesis. Please ensure that you are able to outline Bowlby's theory of attachment. Make sure that you can refer to the critical period and the internal working model. Also consider how you could evaluate Bowlby's theory of attachment. This ends this video on evolutionary theory.